If he remains patrolman, then that's what his salary would have to
So,
be.
let me
Go ahead, follow.
interject.
Go ahead.
Because I think we kind of getting caught up on, so let's look at it
But
from.
remember, we did that with White.
Let's look at it from a global, like a global standpoint, across departments, across personnel, right? If you have, so my question would be, whose responsibility is it to make sure that we stay within the budget? Just,
Well, it's my responsibility to let you know if you're about to go outside of the budget, right?
right, so what I'm saying is, 2018, 2019, we approved the budget.
Mm-hmm.
The budget had allocated amounts for the positions that are going to be hired.
Right.
So within that, if there is a deviation from what was budgeted, there's only one way that can happen, and that's through council action. So in the event that has happened, which we can see that it's happened.
No. Remember, he was hired under your 18, 19 budget.
Yes, sir.
And he came in as chief,
Yes,
which
sir.
was $70,000.
No, that was for 30 days.
I know, but that's where he came in. That's how he got that rate, I
But
guess.
What we're saying is
You
once.
did.
Well, I mean, I don't have nothing to do with payroll. I don't even do payroll.
But we understand that you don't do
Mm-hmm, okay.
payroll.
We're,
And all we asking is that when things change within our budget,
that we be
No.
notified by
we
you.
know.
Well, look, right now, there's no classification for Ross. I don't know.
So, quick question.
What?
So let's take it
I
off
only
of the,
found this
let's,
out by
let's-
seeing the payroll.
let's
Go
take it
ahead.
off the person.
Go ahead.
We're only, I want to apologize to you,
Mm-hmm.
but this has nothing to do with the person. You're still not hearing us, the process. The process is, Councilman Randall said there's only one way to change our budget.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying, well, only if I feel like telling them or going to them, and we're simply
No.
saying, if you're the one
He
who are.
said he don't know.
Now, if I see that someone is making more than what we budgeted for, I bring it to your attention.
He
So
said he
being-
just found out.
you just
today.
found out
Yeah,
today.
right. Well, I mean, when I put this together, all right, when Ross came in, I gave you at a council meeting what Ross was making.
Yes, you did.
And that was what it
That
was
was
making.
for, but.
Which is this right here. Go ahead.
So outside of that, that's fine.
Mhm.
We're simply wanting to communicate between our finance. So again, this is another reason why I asked for Ms. Johnson to be here, who's our treasurer,
Mhm.
who we need to clearly define roles of responsibility for the treasurer, for our bookkeeper, and the people who do our payroll.
Right.
Because there's no way that the person who looks at our numbers
Mhm.
like that, we can hire somebody that is outside of what is budgeted and that go through without us being communicated that that's happening.
Right. The only problem you got with Ross now is we don't know what his
So
designation.
No, we do know what he-
Well,
We're
we
still
don't
focusing
know.
on
I
it
have
being
no idea.
Ross. It's
Go
not
ahead.
about Ross.
Go
Listen,
ahead.
let me give you another example.
Go ahead.
Right, so say we hire a interim judge,
Mhm.
right? The person comes in and works the judge, does the judgment for a month, right? And then this person goes down to the clerk, right? Just because they were getting paid as the judge, doesn't mean they continue being paid as the judge when they're the clerk.
Right.
Right, so the moment that their position changes, then they should be put in the accurate.
And we've
Pay
done that.
bracket.
When it's been defined, that is happening. And the example it was done with was White.
But
When we bumped White down from chief back to patrol officer, his pay decreased.
So maybe you missed when it was defined, but when he was brought on as a full-time employee, he was brought on as a full-time employee as a patrolman.
But that's what I didn't know. See, I had no idea. All I knew was he was brought in as chief, and I had no idea what the man was making until I saw a payroll summary.
Yes.
I walked in, sorry, I had to leave for a call, but that was, what you just described, sir, is what happened when I went out of the chief position and then got moved into the patrolman position. I went into the patrolman category of pay. In fact, I got put in as the lowest paid patrolmen. And
You know,
then, well, I mean, I probably end up having some paid overtime, because the job that I'm in doing requires so many hours, but.
This is, what we're looking at is the base rate, so I don't think, does that include overtime?
Yeah, if you're looking at like total,
I'd have to
some,
look at it,
the
see
hours
if
that I put in is pretty lengthy. So, but
Yeah,
my
he has
base
some
pay
overtime
rate,
in there.
everybody in here know, it ain't, is went down from the salary of the 60,000-70,000 down to like $22 or $23 an
We was
hour.
also told that when you came in, that you wasn't making 70,000, that you was actually.
Well, what happens is you get, you know, the base salary, and then police officers always have incentives because of different qualifications and stuff, but the base salary is what you just said. I think it was 60, right at 60 or 59 or something like that.
But the
So
basic,
let's be clear, that we're not talking about specifics, right? We're
No,
talking-
and I don't see it as you are. I think y'all were just trying to get the
We're talking
category.
about being consistent about how we operate when we're dealing with money and what the system looks like in the event. It just happened to be that, you know,
Oh, I
you
got
were
it.
the example, but it could have happened, it could happen in any department, right?
Yeah, but what you said, like with the judge and the clerk, and that was a perfect example and a breakdown of it, and that's exactly what happened. And when I got taken out of the judgeship, for example, and I went down to the clerk, I promise you, I can show you my bills that's getting behind. I went way down, and it's $22 or $23 an hour versus, you know, I don't know what 60 works out to be, but say 30 or $35 an hour or whatever. So I did get recategorized.
So,
it might have gone down again, because your pay has changed. And so I haven't seen his most recent pay.
Right, so that, like again, once
It's
again.
been going down.
Once again, we're not talking, it's not about the specifics.
Right, I have to
This
see
is
the
about,
difference.
so
We just
this is
asked
what
in
we
the
tell you,
budget to say
JJ.
patrolman.
So
Yeah.
what we're saying, JJ, what it goes back to is you being our financial person, being a steward and being aware of those kind of things,
Mhm.
right? That's what we're saying, so that when we get this paper, that we're not all like, oh snap, this is the first time we've seen it, right? Because, you know, Councilman Rowland hit it on the head, misallocation of funds is illegal, and
Yeah, right.
I don't look good in jumpsuits.
No, I believe it.
what is our, do we have
What's
a process
What's
for
that?
how we, so what we need to be doing? What is the process on how we classify a job? Because we should have, when we hire new employees, whether they be in the police department, public works, or anything, there should be a rec done that goes to you, that, or, a rec should be done with a job description that then tells you that they're full-time and the rate, so you won't miss.
No, that goes to payroll, Brian.
Oh, I see.
That goes to payroll. It doesn't come to me.
The
That
problem is
goes
we've
to
got too
payroll.
many.
That goes to payroll.
Well, right, so,
Yeah,
so,
that's
so
what
the
goes.
question is, how do we, can we look at the process? Because we have payroll not communicating to Mr. Johnson, now we have,
Well, no,
Miss-
payroll, let me tell you how it communicates. Brian, let me just tell you, okay? All right, when a person is hired, they go to the payroll. And then payroll gives me a payroll summary of the actual, once the payroll has been processed. I look at the payroll summary after it's been processed, and I compare everybody's rate to what's budgeted to make sure that it's in line. If it's not in line, I then call payroll back and say, well, what's going on here?
real quick,
And it's
so,
done.
real quick.
Mhm.
You said that after the fact. Because we're city government, before you even, we need to do, what is our process before that even gets there? If they've already on the job and went to payroll already, then comes back to you, you call a tech, that's a month out.
But Brian,
That's
where I am. I'm the
that's
bookkeeper.
He's the bookkeeper.
I'm the
He's
bookkeeper.
always
We
gonna
gotta
get
set
the
the
right.
policy.
I'm the
We gotta
bookkeeper.
set the
You're
policy.
you're talking about to him about something that we
We gotta
didn't
do, yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm agreeing, we do gotta have that.
I'm not
policy in
saying
place.
he have to, I'm saying, the goal is to flush this out to now that we can create it and we
That's cool,
understand the
but
flow.
not,
We're not gonna do that tonight, but we're talking to, Ms. Johnson, go ahead.
Okay, I just have a simple question. I just want to get a better understanding. Now, you say council sets the proposed salary, like what you have listed on here.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's just say the council proposed it and we have a new hire and like mayor may say, okay, well, this is what your salary is gonna be.
No,
No.
that's not how it works.
That's how it works.
So we,
Okay,
so,
so for example, like if you said, like on here, if you said an employee, $30,000 for that employee, but when that employee is hired, they either get the salary set 25,000, or maybe even over like 28,000. So what happens then, like if it's not at what the council has said? I mean, how
Which
does
is,
that?
this is what, so we don't have necessarily, because it usually hasn't happened that way. So there's no policy for that. But what I'm trying to get us to put out there is how do we now track to make sure that we don't have this happen again?
Okay.
And so if JJ says he's the last person to get it, who's the first person? What's the process after we say, because so it's different when we're doing in the budgeting period because we look at it. But as we're going, like we had some people come in during the month, the year. So the mayor comes to us and says that the job description and the position posted is 30,000. We say, okay, we go with 30,000. And so then we're thinking that that's what was said. Now, if the mayor is not supposed to then say, well, I'm giving them 34,000, and then they're just getting paid, and we're looking at numbers saying, thinking that it was 30,000. And so we need to figure out the process, meaning if that's an HR process, which again, the process is the administration, but the policy is council. And we actually have a personnel policy manual that should be followed. The problem is we're not following that. And so because we also have 3 people, where most three different people doing with, that should be communicating all together, like that's something that we can put as recommendations on making sure that the treasurer, the bookkeeper, and the people doing payroll all
so
together.
let me build on that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're looking at this right, if at the beginning of the budget cycle, we allocate the position to be hired. If there's a vacancy, we still budget for said position, right? There's a salary range, right? And so he can post a job within that salary range because that's what's been budgeted. So there's no discussion necessary for that because that's already been budgeted. But anytime you want to hire somebody or bring somebody in that differentiates from the budgeted salary range, it has to come back to council for a budget amendment.
Right. Right, and to further the process then, since we do have a full-time treasurer. All right, let me tell you what was happening before.
Right, this is also the first
Yeah.
time we've had a full-time
Right,
treasurer in
exactly.
3 years.
Different people were taking, you can call the payroll people, different people were giving them salaries. Okay?
What do you mean?
Just different,
No,
I'm not, I don't name
different.
them.
What do you mean? when you
I mean,
call-
the
you
payroll
people. What do you, like, break it down, JJ.
The group that does the payroll, Williams,
When you say different people were giving the payroll person salaries,
Who are the different people?
no, don't, who are the different people? What-
the
so-
police chief would give a salary, or the mayor would give a salary.
So different department heads were
Yeah,
given different
right,
salaries.
Yeah, right, but,
So-
and so it's confusing to them. So the way we should go forward with a consistent
A
process,
process of who.
the
We gotta
treasurer,
set it, we gotta set it.
yeah, the treasurer should be the person
Correct.
The first.
communicating to the payroll department what the pay raises should be.
So let me
Okay.
interrupt for a second. Since you've been the treasurer, how has that process worked as far as communicating with the payroll department?
I normally get the proposed salary from Mayor Allen.
All right, right now, Ross, are you still doing the police to the payroll people?
I am,
Okay, see, he
So-
does,
Yeah.
So we need
Yeah.
one central person who should
yeah,
be the
it goes,
treasurer.
but it goes through her, like I
Yeah,
process
The
it. for the-
personnel, she
Yeah,
handles
it-
personnel, so.
Yeah, it comes to, he collects it all, but it comes to me.
okay, and
I
it goes through
take,
you,
yeah,
right,
and I take all payroll
right,
to them.
then that's
But they're,
good,
now their
go ahead.
salaries, I don't,
So where's the treasurers in that position, in that process? Because we wanna, the problem is we have so many people, how is that, how do you fit in?
Technically, personnel falls on the city secretary,
Right.
which is why at the time when I was
Right,
interim city
personnel falls on
secretary,
the city
I
secretary.
did like the offer letters, but I would get the information from
So we need to figure out if
Yeah.
personnel and payroll are under the same umbrella. Because I wouldn't believe that they are. I think personnel is more like hiring and those type of things. And then,
Onboarding, yeah.
right, and then payroll and salary is something different. So I think that may be an attorney's that question or TML
Well,
question.
that's one of, we can set that here. It should probably be to the treasurer.
This is, Jay,
The
this is
payroll.
what, this is what I'm saying and why it's a legal question, because I want,
As long as you got separation of duties.
but I want a lawyer to tell us how it looks other places, right? I want,
Okay, then just-
in order for us to develop a policy,
I
we
understand.
need to know what it should look like.
Well, okay, you should have a payroll department, but we don't have a separate payroll department, which is contracted out.
Do we have a city treasurer?
Right, so what all I'm saying is, we understand that we don't have enough personnel to have full separation of duties. But in this case, it would probably behoove us to simply run that payroll through the treasurer gives it to the payroll department.
So, because we've never had a city, because we haven't had a treasurer in a while, I think we need to, in this budget cycle, when we're looking at not only responsibilities, try to figure out
Some
what
process.
needs to, the processes.
Yeah, some process.
Officer, Officer Ross.
I hear what y'all question is, and I can tell you what's been developing, because I think I think everybody's on the right track. And I think what has happened is you guys are finding out at the end of a bunch of stuff having gotten done. But I know, and I'll just speak for me, and since the three of us are relatively new, but coming from, big bureaucracies, those methodologies that you're talking about are simply, let's start where you are, Councilman, which was, hey, we got people getting paid, why is somebody getting paid up here, and some people getting paid down there, why some up here, why some down there? For my department, and even at agencies I work with, what happens is that agency head has the range that you guys were talking about. And the only time that it had to go to commissioner's court was beyond, like what you said, when it goes beyond that range, say 30,000, 25 to 30,000. That department head sets it between the 25 and 30,000 for that individual is based on some qualifications, this, and this. So what I do in my position was to always set those people's deal, and as a good steward, I always try to keep the budget as low as possible, but be fair to the person. Then watch the stuff like overtime, comp time, vacation time, sick time, make sure that we're not getting too high up on it. And when there was a problem, that goes toward now, and this is what we're also doing currently, that goes to the city secretary, because that's kind of where we're running the HR piece out of it. And I think what can happen in this policy that you guys are making, or maybe needs to be solidified, or I'll look at mine and see if there's anything that I can share with you guys out of the police manual, is that it sounds like you guys want to know some of that. And for us, I know I can give a binder. Like I got a bunch of people, because we're down a bunch of people. So what I can do is make sure that I say, okay, these 5 people are going to get paid this, and this, because all the benefits are basically the same. This is what they're going to get paid, and that's going to go through, and I know it's going to get, basically kind of approved by the mayor, who I guess will send it back through city secretary / HR, and then that's how the checks will end up getting cut through, and treasurer will be letting the payroll company know this is what the salary is. But it's not going to be me coming in and telling anybody else, like say what JJ was saying, just running down the payroll and just kind of with this made up stuff. There's a policy to it.
We're not asking to know like the specifics that's in the body. We just want to develop a system that crosses through all departments. So that's.
Now, we do have a bona fide, I can only speak to the police, we do have a bona fide, this is what the police get paid.
So, as we, did you show Councilman Jones here? Okay. As we wrap up, does anybody have any last comments? Our next meeting is August 26th. Ms. JJ, do you have anything for
Yeah,
us?
question, back to the property tax.
Tax
Okay.
return.
Are we pretty much, because we got to vote on this next council.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
good.
tax-
We good. But JJ, could you send us a subsequent meeting, because we not able to meet
Oh,
Monday?
no, I just want to know from this meeting here.
No, I'm just saying, we not able to meet
We need
Monday.
another-
Oh, yeah, right, well,
We need
We have
another
a
day.
workshop day before the
well,
26th.
we got one, right here.
So
I mean, after the
after the
26th.
26th.
Between, I think,
The
Because
28th.
we're missing a day.
What is, wait,
it's not Thursdays or Fridays, because next week, football season starts, and so,
Wait, hold up.
28th, right?
Yeah, 28th.
what's that, a Thursday?
What day do we have?
Wednesday. It's a Wednesday or Thursday?
Wednesday.
She said the 28th, that's what she told me.
Yeah, 28 at 6 o'clock.
You good with like Google Calendar?
We got 28 at 6 o'clock, and then we can always go after that.
You start like creating calendars on this.
Now, the only problem is that
Yeah, now, Brian,
and I can see
I'm gonna
how
bring
it
back
works, but it's
to you guys.
2010.
Yes, the meeting's adjourned.
And it is not.